I'd love to hear how you continue to meet or across these 50 countries now that you've cooked in and met people. How do you find that you get invited to these hidden tables? Because travel is travel. There's millions of people around the world and there's more of these like touristy type cooking classes now. Like what's your secret to kind of going beneath the surface from a food perspective?
Well, I'm a very curious person. And as you heard in the previous story, I don't take no for an answer, but I'm very interested. And I have a way of just showing people that I truly care about them and that I'm not just trying to learn how to cook something. I want to get to know the person. So there are many ways that I meet these people. I mentioned 80 people in the book who influenced me. And by asking a lot of questions, by paying attention. One of the ways that I find people is that I ask guides. If I hire a guide in a particular city, I will tell them, I give them a little background on me and what I love to learn. And I ask them, do you know anyone that might be able to teach me? Or do you know of a particular market where you could take me, where the tourists don't go, that's for the locals? Or do you know a fisherman that might, show me what he does for during the day? And so I ask a lot of those questions. When I travel alone, I, of course, eat alone generally. And I meet people in restaurants. I will always sit at the bar if it's available, and that's where I have my dinner. And I will talk to the people around me. I'll talk to the bartender. I'll tell them, because they'll ask, "What are you doing here? Why are you alone?" And I tell them, and I can't tell you how many people have said, "Oh my gosh, you need to meet my grandmother, or you need to go to this place." And I have made many connections that way. Also, of course, the internet. I search in Instagram, social media. It's amazing. I will follow chefs or I will follow individuals who really interest me in food, and they may be someone abroad. And if I'm going to that place, I'll contact them and say, I'm coming, can we meet? Can you teach me? Can you take me here? An example of that is I'm very interested in salt. I'm fascinated by salt. And I had seen, I believe, on social media about a place called Colima, Mexico. It's on the western coast, and they are known for many things. It's a beautiful, lush rainforest place. It's a state, very small in Mexico, but they cultivate sea salt in a very unique and historical way. And I've been reading about it, and then I see that there's this chef in Colima who is helping promote the salt that they harvest and to protect that place and to promote the people that have been working there their whole lives. And I'm reading his stories. He had a little restaurant called La Sal. And so I contacted him. I said, I want to come. And will you take me to the salt pans? And can we look at salt, and I want to see how it's done. And he said, yes, I'll do that for you. And I said, well, can I come next month? He said, no, because it's going to be covered in water. That's when the high tide, you have to come in April. And okay. So I went in April, and I took my photographer with me. She travels with me a lot, especially for the book. This was actually after the book had gone to print. So the back cover has a picture of
Ooh.
Colima, Mexico. We were able to slide in one
Oh, here
photo.
you go. Lots of
Yeah.
salt.
So
Wow.
Chef Nico spent 2 days with us and took us to the salt pans, took us to little restaurants. Now, yes, I paid him,
Right. Right.
a nominal fee. Not everyone, I mean, they're working. Of course, I'm going to pay them something. But he was so thankful that this American woman cared about them. And I ended up bringing 80 pounds of salt home with me, and I actually sell the Kalima salt. But that's just one way was I found him on Instagram.
Mm.
I have another story also in Mexico, and that was toward the end of the pandemic when we could not, as Americans, travel to Europe. It still wasn't open to us. Mexico became available. And I was just, of course, itching like everyone else to travel. So I went to Mexico. And I hadn't spent a lot of time there. I had, done the beaches and, girl trips, but I hadn't really gotten into Mexico. And so I was with some friends, and I was getting a massage. And the man who was giving the massage was asking what I do, and I said, "Do you know anyone that could teach me how to cook Mexican food, particularly from this area?" And this was in the state of Nayarit, Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "I don't, but I will give me your number and I'll contact you if I can think of someone." About 2 weeks later, he texted me and he said, "I remember your ask." And he said, "I've heard of this woman named Alondra. She just wrote a cookbook on on her state of Nayarit, and she did all this research. And I think she teaches, but here's her number. A friend of mine gave me her number." So I messaged her and I told her I'd really love to learn from her. And so a few months later, I go back to Mexico. I spent 4 days with her cooking. We became best friends. She ended up taking me to Mexico City the following year, introduced me to other friends there. My friend Paco, who she introduced me to, is a culinary guide, and he has taken me to probably 10 different places in Mexico
Wow.
and introduced me to the most fascinating people, particularly women. And that's what I write about in the chapter on Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
are these women that I met who are just amazing. They're all single for several reasons, but they're entrepreneurial and they're all in the food or spirits, liquor industry. And they just embraced me and taught me, and we remained great friends. I love Mexico. I truly have a real heart for them.